All eyes are on Washington, with many of us north of the border wondering what to expect from a second Trump presidency. Amid threats of huge tariffs and a trade war, many worry about how effectively we can negotiate with a man willing to play loose with the facts. Need a refresher? The last time Trump was in power, the Washington Post found he made 30,573 false or misleading claims during the 4 years he was in office. That averages out to 21 misleading claims every day and almost one an hour. So what is it like sorting fact from fiction when covering Trump? Joining us from Washington, D.C., Maria Ramirez Uribe from the fact-checking website PolitiFact. Welcome to the program, Maria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what would you say is the biggest challenge in fact-checking President Trump? Someone who, let's say, likes to go off script once in a while.
Yeah, I think there's a few different challenges. I would say the first one is, as you just mentioned, the amount of false claims that Trump makes. So as a news organization, as a fact-checking organization, we really have to be selective on what we fact-check and what's most important for our voters and audience to know the facts on.
Now, you cover immigration stories, a favorite topic of the president, of course. What have you heard in the past few days when it comes to immigration?
Yeah, during Trump's inauguration speech, he made one of his maybe favorite claims. He made it multiple times during the campaign, and it's that countries are emptying their prisons, their insane asylums, their mental institutions, and sending people across the border. Now, of course, that is completely false. We actually have given it pants on fire. That's our worst rating. It's something that's false and ridiculous. There's absolutely no evidence that that's happening, but Trump continues to repeat the claim.
All right, I'm just curious. I want to get in the mind of a fact checker. When you are fact checking, say in a speech, for example, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so I would say, as opposed to maybe a normal journalist, we're not looking for what's going to make the most news. So I'm listening for data points, numbers that we can rely on, fact check, see if they're right, the context behind that data. We're looking for descriptions of policy or description of past historical actions that, again, we can go and look at the original source and see if it's an accurate representation.
All right, I want to know as well, one of the things with your job is to get the facts, decipher what's true, what's not. But I'm curious for, viewers, your advice. If they're going through information and trying to weed out what's fact from fiction, what should they be doing?
Yeah, we like to say that generally, if anything elicits a really strong emotional response, right? You're scrolling on your social media, you're listening to a politician speak, and you either feel intense fear or sadness or any kind of strong emotion, usually that might be a telltale sign that the information you're looking at is either inaccurate, misleading, or false. And so we like to tell people to kind of take a moment, take a breath, don't just immediately share that information, but instead sort of take the time, do a little Google searching, look for some reputable sources and see what is the fact.
I am curious, this is your first time covering Trump's term, his second term. You weren't covering his first term. I'm curious, what got you into fact checking? What led you into this path?
Yeah, I would say I got a little bit into immigration reporting first. I was a local journalist in a radio station in North Carolina, and I covered immigration there. That was with sort of a human angle, the effect of these policies on everyday people in my local community. But I've always been a very curious person. I've always wanted to understand more and kind of question what I'm reading or what I'm seeing. And I think that was part of what got me into fact checking. And then I had my immigration knowledge sort of carry over. And now I get to marry both.
I got to admit, as a fact checker, you probably have an uphill battle. I'm curious, what's the challenge in, this idea that people are embracing misinformation more and more, and sort of how do you tackle that as a fact checker moving forward?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult. I mean, we keep doing our job every single day, day in and day out, no matter whether or not people want to listen to us or want to agree with the facts. But I think one of the things we like to think about a lot at PolitiFact is that Oftentimes there's a lot of people who are quiet, but they are the ones that do want to understand the facts. They are the people who are curious and who will actually take something from our reporting. And maybe the people sort of on the extremes are the loudest, but they're not necessarily the majority. And so that sort of keeps us going. And that's kind of our guiding principle. Those are the people in the middle that we're speaking to.
Maria, I want to thank you so much. I know you're going to be very busy in the years to come covering Trump's presidency. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.